Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 18th of January. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How are we doing, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Cold up here. I don't know what it's like down in your ends, but it is very cold in Glasgow today. So heating is on.
Yeah, I know everyone loves a weather watch in the morning. It is -4 in Warrington. Yeah, so not quite. It was -5 you went out a walk this morning, wasn't it? -5 in
-5, and it's saying -6 on the laptop this morning. So might have got colder if you trust those metrics.
Let us know how cold it is where you are, folks. I'm waiting for our Canadian bears to get in touch where it's like -9 million. But yeah, let us know where you're tuning in this morning. Quick word for the podcast sponsors. As ever, bit of podcast admin, the MPH Group. If you're looking for home improvements, folks, or a new boiler, then these are the guys to call. The all-important links are in the description below. They've got some cracking deals on at this moment in time. Right, as it stands, no Fabio Silva remains the only January edition thus far. Philip Clement did say the club are working really hard day and night to get new extra bodies in. At this point, there is no added players being added to the Rangers squads. However, there is, I'm sure you've seen, numerous links, numerous names being linked to the club. But Joshua, we'll talk about someone that is already in the door to begin with in Fabio Silva, joined before the January transfer window, signed that deal. He originally linked up with his new teammates and made his debut in that victory over Kilmarnock before the winter break. You caught up with him over in La Manga, of course, spoke well. If Rangers supporters are expecting this guy to be the number 9 that's going to bag in numerous amount of goals, they'll be mistaken, I think. I think he will contribute. I hope he does contribute, but Rangers still need another prolific number 9 for me before the window closes. But what will he bring?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because he sitting down with him last week was an opportunity to actually ask the player. We all have these opinions about players, so it's interesting to actually see what they think about their game. He said on the topic of what type of player he is, I think we mentioned this in the briefing last week, but to tie in with Derek, with what we saw, I think, in the midweek game against Copenhagen, where I thought he looked good, I thought he looked bright. Obviously, we don't really know if he's going to bag lots of goals. We don't know how he's going to play in domestic games because it's probably going to be quite different. Copenhagen obviously are a good team and had more of the ball than most teams will have at Ibrox. But he said, I'm not a really, really number 9 because I don't like to be static in the box, like to move and change positions with other players. I don't like to stay in the box only. I like to change positions, have connections with players, play 1-2s and move deep. I'm a dynamic player and I like to change my position during the game. And tying in, Derek, to something that Clement had said at a previous press conference, he said he understands the story, the style of football. We had a lot of talks before he came about football, about how I see the players playing. We spoke about several positions, not only one where he can play. I think generally, Derek, ideally you'd want Fabio Silva to be your kind of second number 9, maybe, in the way that Sima has been for Rangers, because he's not an out-and-out, he's not a focal point, but he has still provided a lot of goals. However, I do think if you tie in the conversation of how Danilo played at points, there is crossover with what we saw in midweek. So if you look just first, I've got a couple of images to show this. This is where he played his passes from, and you can see, I think it was 15 passes he played, and we saw this quite a lot, didn't we, where he dropped in and he actually played that great ball into Ross McCausland where McCausland was just offside. But it kind of tied in with the overall point of the fact that he said, look, I'm not someone who wants to, I want to move deep. I want to have connections. I want to drop in. And moments like this, I think you saw it, Derek, whereby this is where he linked quite well with Cantwell. Maybe normally Matondo would be a bit higher in this situation and run in behind, but I just thought this is like where you see players' instincts, isn't it? He doesn't want to necessarily run on the shoulder and behind. He wants to combine. And I think when he did drop in and get the ball, he looked really tidy on it and linked up quite well with Cantwell. And there's actually quite a lot of crossover, I think, if you think about what Clement wants, which is an interchange in positions and players making those diagonal runs. If you think back to the goal that Sima scored against Hearts, I think that's a perfect example, Derek, because the striker drops in, creates a space for then the left winger to kind of become the number 9. And I think Silva will allow his teammates to do that. And I think we saw that at the goal as well, whereby He starts in a central position. Matondo's the one who runs inside. It's different from the Hearts goal because it comes from winning the goal back. But if you look at where he ends up when the goal actually goes in, obviously Matondo probably should actually play the pass. It's an outstanding finish. But if he'd missed the shot, it would have been he'd been criticised for it heavily. I'm sure from Silva because he made the angle from his run. But I think just overall, Derek, what we saw in those 40 or 60 minutes was he looks like someone who's going to naturally move towards the ball and want to combine, and I think that's fine if you have players running in behind like a Matondo or a Sima or even a McCausland. He is, by his own confession, someone who doesn't want to stay static in the box. You'll still have, you'd imagine, a lot of activity in the box, even if he is dropping in deep, because Rangers are going to have a lot of the ball in and around that area. And maybe if you pair him up with someone like Abdallah Sima, who we know is going to score goals between now and the end of the season, there's enough between them. I guess the question is, do you still need another player on top of that in the final third? And the answer probably is yes. But that's just kind of what stood out to me. And I guess what tied in with his comments, Derek, he's someone who wants to change positions with other players, who's going to naturally move towards the ball, doesn't want to just, in these examples, if I pull up the previous image, doesn't want to just kind of stay on the shoulder here and running behind or only get involved when the ball reaches the penalty box. He's going to naturally move towards the ball and probably link up quite well with Cantwell. I guess, where does he play? I guess that probably depends on whether Rangers can get another number 9 into the club this window. I think he can play there, and again, with those goals alongside Sima, that would be something that Rangers could work with. But I think in an ideal world, Clement would probably have another player in there and have Silva as one of these supporting players who's also going to, provide a goal threat, as we've seen Sima do from the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it over on the left that he is I know Rabbi Matondo was speaking after the game as well. He was asked if Sima's involvement with Senegal, the African Cup of Nations, presents an opportunity for him, and he says it's an opportunity for all the players to stake a claim, really. Good goal from him, from Matondo. I need to see more of him, I've got to admit, but he and Silva, I think, will be the two players vying for that position, Joshua, and still Rangers, I think, need someone up there alongside Cyril Dessers. There's a lot of comments coming in on that. First of all, John Adams says Fabio was the best player on the pitch on Tuesday, he says. While Headkeeper says, my worry is that Dessers turns out to be our best striker this season. You think you'll bag Rangers a fair amount of goals, Joshua, Fabio Silva?
I don't know, because we've not seen him really in that position yet, have we? I agree with the first comment. I thought he looked really good, and you could see that, okay, he's a good player. The question is, obviously, the question everyone wants answered is he going to bag a lot of goals? The thing is, I still think Dessers will score goals between now and the end of the season in those type of matches. His run at the start of the season suggests he will. But the real question for or area Rangers have needed to address, and I guess it's heightened by the Old Firm game, and maybe, as Sima grows, as Silva grows, the issue is obviously they're two lone players, then they can provide in those moments. But I think it's just at that level of when Rangers are in a cup final, when Rangers are in an Old Firm game, who is going to score those goals for them? And so far, the only answer has been James Tavernier, who, as we've spoke about this week already on the channel, has got a unique game, but I don't think you can rely on him to be your only one who's going to provide moments. Matondo, Derek, I think he's shown this season what he can do. I don't think that goal doesn't really take us any further forwards before the winter break. What you would just, I guess, hope from his point of view is more time with Clement. He spoke about doing that extra work outside of Rangers, extra practicing on his finishing. What you would hope is that gives him this time to make that step, which is there's a big difference between making an impact here or there and then doing it consistently. And I actually think Matondo's, you see, if you take Matondo's season, I think the game that actually would offered most encouragement was the game against Morton in the League Cup, which was a horrendous game to watch. But he was playing against the back five, and he created a lot of opportunities that day, hitting the byline, using his pace, not always trying to cut inside. And I think that's what, if he's going to be a starter for Rangers, that's what he needs to develop. He needs to become a player who is going to do that in moments, who's going to move inside and try a shot in moments, but is also going to be able to play the game when it slows down and I guess just mature a bit as a winger. But one of the pieces we did, I think it was maybe after his PSV goal with his coach at Cercle Bruges, who's now the Cercle Bruges manager, he spoke about that finish and he said, called it the Thierry Henry finish, where instead of looking for the top corner, you're looking for the bottom corner. It's something he worked on a lot during his time in Belgium. I think everyone can see, and even probably people who don't think he's, who don't rate him as a player, you can see he's got these moments. But the part is, if you think of Vidal Sima, he's provided these 15 goals, but he's also added a lot of defensive work. He's got Rangers out of a difficult situation so many times in the build-up with his running and beyond. So you need to do a lot in that left-wing position. But I think this is going to be his chance in the Scottish Cup against Hibs, against Watson Mirren as well. A few days after that away game in Edinburgh. Yeah, interested to see how he does.
Yeah, a host of comments coming in off the back of it. Let's get to a few of them. First of all, I love this comment. Silva reminds me of Amato. Ball barely got up to him low. He was one of my favourite Rangers players ever, Gabriel Amato. Absolutely loved him. If you can be anywhere near as good as him, then I think Rangers will do well. Denzel with a point on Silva. Quite clear, Silva isn't a 9. I think he'll be a direct replacement for Sima while he's away at AFCON. And after that, he says, I cannot wait for Sima to come back, I've got to say.
CJ, just on that point there,
yep.
The only thing I'd say to that is that Dessers not have started then in the first half of both those friendly games? Because I looked at that starting 11 against I guess Clement will be trying things out.
Yes.
But I think if he was going to play Silva from the left and Dessers at number 9, he'd have done that in the first half of both those games, because I think that looks like his starting 11. It's not as if he's played two different kind of mix and match starting 11s. It looks quite clearly as if, especially in the game over in La Manga, he played a team that was more first choice first half, and then second half with Butland and Goldson kind of being the leaders in the team. The second half was more giving people an opportunity. So I kind of think maybe he will play Dessers, and I'll be wrong, but I just think if he was going to play from the left from the off, I think he might have started him from the left in these two friendly games.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what the manager does with Saturday on the horizon. Well, that match is played, I'm sure Dumbarton will be doing everything they can to make sure the pitch is playable. I'd imagine it's rock hard. Pardon the pun over there at this moment in time. Comment that's came in just on Silva, his link-up play was good. Can't actually remember him having a clear chance, so his goal scoring is up for debate. And some nice words from Big Handsome. He says, well done, Rangers review team. You don't have meaningful games to comment on. There's nothing happening in the Rangers transfer world. No one is throwing their toys out the pram, but your content is fantastic. Thank you very much, buddy. It's greatly appreciated. I have to have got a bit inventive during this transfer window, because not only is there not much happening with regards to Rangers, but elsewhere as well. And just finishing up on Silva, JD says, let's be realistic, the opposition will be shut tight on Silva. He won't get near the space he got against Hertha and Copenhagen. That's a good point, Joshua, isn't it? It's up to Rangers when they come up against teams, i.e. Saturday, to break teams down that play that low block. Listen, I think he's got the skill level. Wolves don't pay £35 million for this boy if he hasn't got something about him.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he gets on. I know the Scottish football is completely different to pretty much football anywhere else on the planet. But there's a reason why Rangers identified him. There's a reason why other clubs were looking to bring him in. So I think I don't have any qualms about him coming up against those low blocks.
Yeah, and I think maybe his style will help him, because he'll be able to drop a bit and get on the ball. I think that's one of the things that Danilo, although he's not the Morelos type to really spin and play long diagonals and behind, actually, as we've kind of seen a bit more from Silva in midweek, Danilo was someone who could take the ball with his back to goal. And again, to go back to that Hearts goal that Sima scores, I think that shows in a kind of snapshot what Clement wants, and he speaks a lot about these interchanging positions at the top end of the pitch, with the number 9 dropping off, and the left winger Sima could have becoming the de facto number 9 in that instance. A lot depends on expectation, Derek. I think hypothetically, if Danilo hadn't been injured and Silva was coming in as a player who, he played from the left a lot at PSV, expectation if you're coming in to be the Rangers number 9 changes a lot, doesn't it? Because suddenly if you don't score in a couple of games, even if you have a good game, then people are going to be on your back and are going to be critical. So again, a lot probably depends what happens between now and the end of the window. Philippe Clement's comments after the game in midweek suggest that he's keen to have other players come in and add quality in the final third and add competition. But I guess there's no guarantees in January. And again, he's kind of caveated that pretty consistently, even speaking to him when we spoke to him after the game out in La Manga. He's got experience of these January windows, and he knows how difficult they are compared to the summer. So that might mean that come the end of the window, if no one else is in that position, then Silva's going to have to take more of a goal scoring burden. I guess the positive is that he had 2 loan spells where he settled in quickly last season, which should suggest that he's going to hopefully be able to hit the ground running again. There's a big difference, I think, between him coming in at the end of December and the end of January. So yeah, intrigued to see how he goes. It was a bright kind of first 60 minutes, but that question about goal scoring will remain, I think, until Rangers have players who decide these fine margins in big games, purely because, again, outside of Tavernier at the back post or pulling a free kick out the bag, that the games that have really mattered this season, which is the 1-0 Old Firm defeat at home, the 2-1 Old Firm defeat for Rangers away from home, they haven't had players in the final third able to decide those margins. And again, to go back to the cup final, they needed James Tavernier to bail them out to win that trophy. So I think that's why there's naturally so much focus on that area of the pitch.
Yep. Some interesting points on where Silva will play as well. We touched on maybe filling in for Seema off the left, how he's not a proper number 9. William White with the point if PC played a 4-1-4-1, Silva could play alongside Cantwell. Cantwell's an interesting one. Again, sort of not anywhere near his best in midweek, Josh. I know it's a friendly and all that, but he's not really kicked on this season, has he? Rangers need more from him in this second half of the campaign. As I've touched on many times before, he is a match winner. He's got the potential to win games on his own. Rangers need a lot more from him, I feel. So much so, I don't think his place in the side is... I would have said it was guaranteed prior to Philippe Clement coming in. But now he needs to do a bit more for me.
I thought he ran himself into the ground, to be fair, on Tuesday, and I thought he looked more like... There's been recent games where I've thought, I guess the Old Firm game as well, where you thought he didn't quite look... when he came into the club, and he spoke about kind of having a good level of base fitness throughout his career. When he came into the club last season, I think you could see that he's a real runner. Like he's never really going to be outrun on a pitch. Whereas I thought that Old Firm game, now, I think you should caveat it with the fact that we know he'd missed a game the week before due to a personal matter. We don't know what goes on there, and we forget that footballers are humans, and we shouldn't. And things can affect their performance, just like things can affect us in our day-to-day lives. But I just didn't think he looked quite fully at it there. Whereas if you watched that friendly, okay, maybe on the ball, it wasn't his finest game yet. It's a friendly, all the usual caveats. But I thought off the ball, is running, he looked more like the energetic player that we've kind of come to know over the last year. Similar to Raskin for me, where they both came in and started well. They both weren't able to kick on at the start of the season because I think a number of factors. Both suffered injuries, although Cantwell's was shorter. Both were, I think, moved around too much for their own good. And I think that they came into a team that was pretty settled last season. And even if they changed from position to position, obviously Cantwell started as that kind of right-sided central midfielder, then moved up to the number 10 spot at the end of the season. And whereas at the start of this season, I think there was too much change to have any consistency. And I think Cantwell will enjoy playing like a player with Silva, because I don't think he's someone who you want to necessarily isolate all the time. He's someone who I think suits playing with players kind of in close proximity and combining, because he's not a kind of explosive dribbler. I agree with you. I think he needs to probably do more in games like that Old Firm game to really... That's what determines, I guess, your legacies at a club like Rangers, isn't it? But I still think he's a player who's got a lot of quality and has as well, in that number 10 spot in the last couple of months, has improved it, has made some notable contributions. But I agree, I think there's still more to come from him, and you'd hope that having that winter training camp with Clement, having a bit more time, and to, I guess, just even for him to understand the manager's ideas. Because I think if you go back to that instant where he lost the ball when he was playing on the right, he was subbed after 35 minutes in the game against Irish. I remember tweeting something after that and saying, okay, you've got someone here, Cantwell, who a couple of months ago everything was built around him, and he had freedom to move anywhere in the pitch. And if you listen to what he said last season, that was a big reason I came up to Rangers because he felt like that was a type of football he wanted to play, and then suddenly, and you're attached to the right hand side, and you're playing in an unnatural position, and it's less about you and more about the team. I think he's one of the myths he kind of bust when he came up was that he's not a luxury player. He works really hard for the team. You look at his defensive numbers. He is, I think, though, a bit of an individualist and a maverick in the way he plays football, and that's what's made him good because he tries things and he's expressive. But I think you could see the shift there of in those pressurized moments as a footballer, how much of that is disobeying managerial instructions and how much is it just naturally the type of game that he's played all his life and just comes naturally to him. So I think there's just been a lot of change all around a player like him this season. I agree with you in those big moments. The team need him to be one of the leaders who creates for others. Hopefully he'll benefit from the likes of Silva coming in and playing with those intelligent players around him. And as well from that time on away in La Manga on the training pitch. But we'll see quickly because that Hibs away game and that St Mirren away game are so big in the context of the rest of the season. Rangers have these games in hand, but if they don't win them, then that whole talk of the title race being blown wide open will soften somewhat. So big after that Dumbarton game, I think big pressure on players to deliver right away.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Ridvan shortly, but point coming in from McNee says, morning from Belgium. Are you guys planning another deadline day evening show? Looks like Rangers could be scrambling about at the last minute. The evening show we did on deadline day in the summer, Joshua, proved to be, I mean, it was good that we lasted so long, but there was pretty much zero happening with regards to transfers. Hopefully, if we do decide to do one, we'll have a bit more to talk about, but is that something that we might consider?
Yeah, I've not even thought ahead to tomorrow, let alone next week, Derek. But I'm sure we will. I think we've only done it once, but obviously Rangers transfer deadline day last summer. Sorry, the summer of 2022 was 2022 was very quiet as well. So we'll see, but I'm sure as ever we'll find something to talk about if we do that indeed, and if Rangers don't make any kind of last minute additions, as they've tended not to really do. The last deadline day signing Rangers made probably Aaron Ramsey. I think maybe was he deadline day? Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, let us know in the comments, folks.
Not a happy transfer to people to look back on. No, I realise, but I think that was the last time they moved on deadline day.
Yeah. Right, on Ridvan, just when we were discussing, when you touched on there, Joshua, about why has Clement not played Dessers up top and Silva on the left-hand side. Aldo with a point here, he says, if that's his starting 11, would he have played Ridvan, and does that mean Ridvan is staying? Of course, played in midweek. Did well to set up the Matondo away for that opening goal for Rangers. He has been playing. I thought his comments after the game, the manager on was speaking about Ridvan and the interest in him, and he also spoke about generally about players wanting to be at the club as well. Thought it was quite interesting what he was saying just on that left back situation. He said, I can not respond on that for any player who is here. I'm busy with one thing. Everybody who is here is a player of Rangers, and I commit fully with all the staff to get the best out of them. But for every player at Rangers, if there comes an offer that cannot be refused or is a good thing for the club, then we need to discuss it. At the moment, that is not the case. Ridvan is here, and he started the game. And he was then asked, is he a player you would like to keep if you can? We will see. Players also need to show they really want to be here in the next couple of months. We need to be prepared for everything, for every position also, and make sure that we have solutions. That is one position that we have two players. One is at the end of his contract. The other, there is a lot of rumours around, so it's clear we need to be ready for that position. That tells me, reading between the lines, Ridvan possibly looking for a move. Joshua, I know when we spoke to the Turkish journalist last week, he would prefer not to go back to Turkey. I know Galatasaray are very keen on signing him. But that point from Clement on Ridvan and the fact he's still playing him, what should we read into that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think you can understand from Ridvan's point of view, if you rewind a month ago, you could understand if he was looking at the state of his career and thinking, right, maybe I need to be going and playing consistent football here. I think he's probably playing the best he has done. Again, it's been friendlies, but he looks the most comfortable he has in a while. Yes, there's still parts of his game, I think specifically his size, where you look at it and you think, okay, maybe he's not the complete package, but are you going to get a better player in that left back position if you sign one now? I don't know, because I think he has a lot of positives to his game as well, and I think he changes the dynamic on the left-hand side. If Rangers were able to get a good amount of money for that Derek and spend it on, let's say hypothetically, Rangers getting 3 to 4 million for Ridvan. They have a loan deal at left back that addresses that short term and is still a quality player. Although I think that's a risk, as we've been speaking about with Fabio Silva, about a loan player coming in and kind of making that shirt their own. And then you're able to go and spend that money on getting someone in the final third who gets you over the line in certain games. Then I can understand the logic behind that. But also I think Ridvan is someone who, if he has, you maybe got to think, okay, if he has a good 6 months, then how much does his value go up? Because I think he does have a lot of really good bits to his game and a lot of elements to his game that will size be as much of a factor in other leagues? Maybe not. Could he be worth a lot more money in a few years? I think he could. And is he playing the best he's played for Rangers for a long time? Yeah, so I don't mind if a player's thinking about their long-term career and they want to play. And I think that's only natural. You know, he's not had an easy time since he came to the club. He was left out of the European squad. Yes, he's not been fit long enough to have a sustained run of games, but there's probably another side to that as well, where he's not been given opportunities, points, and I just think he's playing the best he has done for Rangers in a while. It's probably the first time where you're looking at the games coming up and you're thinking he's Rangers' first choice in that position. I would argue whether he plays against Dumbarton or not, I don't know, but I think most people would predict that he starts over Borna Barisic. So a lot probably depends on these moving pieces of the transfer window, but I'd like to see more of him in a Rangers shirt at the moment, Derek. I feel if he left just now, it'd almost be like, we were just starting to see what he maybe could do. Yes, he has elements to his game that need work, but any player that Rangers sign in that position probably are going to be the same. What do you think on it? Do you think he depends again on the money that might come in for him?
Yeah, I can see your point there. I'm on the fence with Ridvan. I have been impressed with him. Well, I think he's been pretty good in the last. He's played the last 4 games before the break, and he's played the friendlies as well. It's whether he wants to move on or not. I would be concerned, as would the manager be, if he leaves and Rangers only have one recognised left back in Borna Barisic there.
Because Derek, that's the danger of the January window, isn't it? Like if Rangers, let's say hypothetically, Rangers were to, we don't really know where Barisic is at because he had an injury before the winter break.
Final year as well. I mean, he's able to speak to other clubs, and it doesn't look like he's going to get a new deal. So his mind, which is understandable, will be thinking about his future elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And let's say hypothetically Rangers were to drop points against Hibs, and for some reason it was to do with a player filling in at left back, or can you risk that? Yes, you've got to take risks, but it's different to the summer window when you've got time to not only time to recover in a season. Rangers don't really have that. They need someone in that left back position who's going to be able to play now until the end of the season. And it looks like to me that Ridvan, Balogun, Goldson and Tavernier back four is what Clement's going to go with at the moment, not least because if you play Davies and Ridvan, then I don't think you have a strong aerial presence over that on that left-hand side, whereas if you play Balogun, I think you do, even if you go back to the game against Hearts where Ridvan was targeted with those 2 headers, Shanklin at the back post. I think it was Ben Davies on that left-hand side of the defence. Maybe it's a different story if it's Leon Balogun in there, who really looks like he is going to remain the first choice next to Connor Goldson. So I think it would be a risk, but maybe it just depends a lot on the kind of moving pieces of the January transfer window.
Yeah, Robert gets in touch. He makes an interesting point. He says, I take it young Fraser doesn't exist. Are we simply writing off our homegrown players? He was captain of the B team. I believe surely has a future at the club here, Robbie Fraser. It might present an opportunity for him. I know we've discussed there's John Yefeko in there, there's Adam Devine as well. Although he's predominantly a right back. I thought he did well though at left back when Michael Beale came in originally. But I would like to see if Ridvan was to move. There's no doubt about it. Rangers have already putting feelers out to bring in left backs. I'd imagine it would be a temporary transfer if Ridvan was to leave, just to sort of shore up that side of the defence until the summertime, and then readdress it come the summer. But yeah, it's a dangerous window. I'm on the fence, as I mentioned, with regards to Ridvan. If he can continue in this vein of form, then I would be quite happy him staying. However, he's one of a number of players that have had issues with injury over the course of his time at Rangers, and you do worry that an injury is just around the corner. So, want to keep an eye on. Listen, there's no transfers at this moment in time, folks, but we will keep you updated with any news that comes our way. Incidentally, I'll be on with Adam for the members on the YouTube channel at 12:30 this afternoon for another Q&A show. So please get your questions in, and myself and Adam will answer as many as we possibly can. We've also got the Rangers women's press conference this afternoon. We'll hear from Joe Potter ahead of that big match against Celtic tomorrow night in the Cup, which takes place in Airdrie at the Excelsior Stadium. Tickets still available for that one. Kick-off at 7:35. So looking forward to that. That press conference will be on the YouTube channel as well, folks. There's a great article as well on the website that Chris has done on the injury situation. So I'd urge you to go and check that out as well. It's a cracking read. We'll be back again tomorrow morning as we look ahead to Saturday. Rangers back in competitive action. Cannot wait for that. Of course, it'll be press conference day as well. We'll hear from Philip Clement ahead of that game at Dumbarton's ground. Looking forward to going there, Joshua? You've been to Dumbarton before?
It's actually Chris going there. I'll be away at Hibs and I'll be away at St Mirren, but Chris will be taking the cold shift in Dumbarton. I don't think there's too many seats in the press gantry, so just one of us going instead of two. I think the weather is meant to be better, but you do worry a little bit about whether the game will go ahead. We've kind of been speaking about that over the last week, and not least because you don't want it to. I think Rangers probably have one free midweek at the end of this month or at the start of next month where they could actually play that game. So hopefully the pitch holds up. And we'll see what happens. Rangers obviously big favourites against Dumbarton, probably but in a way a difficult first game to go back to. I'm sure Clement would rather have a home game at Ibrox to kind of get into the swing of things, but it'd be a good opportunity to see how Silva and some others do, see what changes we notice after the winter break. I think Nico Raskin coming back is going to be a big addition to Rangers in that midfield. I know we spoke about him last week, Derek. So we'll see how we go. But loads of coverage for people coming over the course of the next week. Got an exclusive interview with Zeb Jacobs coming that Chris has done at the end of the week, kind of taking us inside his journey, Rangers Youth Academy, the changes, fascinating read there, alongside all the kind of coverage we've got over the next week and lots more to come. So if people haven't subscribed to the website, always a great time. We've also attached the interview with Fabio Silva in the show notes, and as you say, Chris's excellent piece on the injury situation, which was just the Phil Hollander news. I think just kind of brought that home. The point that Philippe Clement has been making, that maybe it has not just been luck that Rangers have had so many injuries over the last couple of years. Chris's piece touches on that, looks at the minutes played this season, and laments the fact that Phil Hollander is fit now he's left Rangers, because I'm sure he'd still be able to do a job had things turned out another way. Yeah, and if Odense are just asking for 850 grand for him, then I would be tempted to put in an offer and bring him home, as I like to say about players. Whether he can remain fit for 2 games in a row remains to be seen. But as Golling's now playing for the Swedish national team, big clubs Anderlecht looking to sign him as well. They had a cheeky bid just under £200,000 for him, which was quite rightly rejected by the Danish side. But go and read that piece from Chris. It's a cracking read, folks. Right, we'll speak to you again tomorrow. If I don't see you on the members video with Adam a little later on. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Bye for now.